Coming to you live from Music City, USA, aka Nashville, Tennessee. This is the ALLAnal podcast with Sebastian Starr. I am your host, Sebastian Starr, and today I am going to be discussing the Oscar award-winning film for pretty much everything this past Oscar season, Anora. Now, this movie came out in late 2024, and this past Oscar season, it pretty much just swept through and took every single award that it could, from lead role to film of the year to, just all of these tremendous accomplishments. And I had seen the previews for it. I had, recognized it. I had acknowledged it. And I thought to myself, okay, that movie looks like it could be decent, you know what I mean? And then I started thinking about all the other movies that were nominated for Oscars this past Oscar season. And Wicked was one of those movies. Now, I watched Wicked, and I loved it. I absolutely thought it was great. It was a beautiful plot, storyline. The only thing that I guess you can say would kind of give it, some points deducted is that it's not an original idea, right? That's all people want to talk about now in Hollywood. And when it comes to film directing and producing and pushing out films, they want original concepts. They want movies that people have never heard of before. The idea for this movie doesn't exist anywhere else. So I guess you can say that Wicked lost a couple of cool points because it's not an original idea. Okay, whatever. But this film, Anora, is a bit more of an original concept, and it's an untold story, right? So people are like, okay, well, let's give this movie a shot and let's see what we can decipher. And going into watching it, it's streaming, I think, on Hulu right now. Going into watching it, I didn't really have any expectations. I was under the impression, obviously, spoilers ahead, I was under the impression that from the trailer, you have this young girl who works at a nightclub, and she meets this young man who's like from another country, who has a lot of money, and they get together for like 2-3 weeks, and then they get married. I'm under the impression, because at some point, and this is given away in the trailer, they're trying to annul their marriage. They're trying to get her to be like, you don't want to be married to this guy. You don't know what you've gotten yourself into. It's not what you think it is. Whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. And she's like, I don't care what you say. I love him. He's my husband. We're going to be together forever. Okay, whatever. So this is all that I was able to take away from the initial trailer of the movie. And that's not really giving away too much of the movie itself, which is nice. But it also didn't tell me a lot of what to expect. So when I went to watch it, I didn't really know what I was getting myself into until after it had already started. And by then it was too late. So I'm going to break it down, as much as I can remember. I've only seen it once, and that was a couple of weeks ago. But I remember it pretty vividly because it's kind of hard to forget. So, and then of course I took notes. So the biggest thing that kind of blew me was how heavily sexually based it was. Because again, from the trailer, I'm thinking this girl just works in a bar. She's a stripper. She's an escort. She gets naked, shows her ass for money, which there's no shame in the game. Get your hustle on, do what you gotta do. That's not what my problem was. My problem was not being aware of that entirely. And then I started seeing little clippets here and there of the movie and the conversation she would have with the guy that she ultimately ends up marrying, and kind of how the whole transaction goes. And it kind of blew me a little bit. So in addition to that, we have the cast. We have Anora, obviously, the main character. She goes by Annie in this movie. We have her quote-unquote husband, who goes by Vanya. We have Annie's best friend, Lulu. Annie's worst enemy, Diamond, which that's such a stripper name, right? Diamond. And then we have some people who work for Vanya's family. We have his parents, who are the real breadwinners of this story. They have stupid money, dumb money, like ridiculous private jet money, very exclusive, very top tier. We have Toros, who works very, very closely with the Vanya family. He basically looks over Vanya, makes sure that he doesn't get into trouble, make sure he stays out of trouble, and basically does whatever he can to clean up any mistakes that he makes, because he's a young, dumb, stupid, rich kid. And then we have the two Goonies. Now, I don't remember what their names are, but they are both very, very important. One of the Goonies is Toro's younger brother, and the other one is like Angus or something like that. It's something very like foreign. But both of them play a very important role, so I do want to keep their names in mind. So when the movie first starts, we meet Anora. She's in her job. The club that she works at is called HQ, headquarters. And immediately, they just showcase all of these naked women doing naked lap dances for strange men in dark booths. And it's this weird, unsettling, alluring type of feeling when you're in like a dark, dark space and the only kind of light that's being emitted is like a hazy red or dark blue or like a shady purple or green, something that's just not crystal clear. So you can't even see what's going on around you, for real. And there's like 20 of these booths and they're all filled with different women and they're all just ass naked dancing on Strangers for Money. They show Anora in the dressing room, kind of, getting ready to close out her night. And she's talking to her friend Lulu about all the clients and whoop-de-whoop. And Diamond is kind of a hater. And Diamond is like one of those people who, she can't stand to see niggas doing better than her. She got that real crabs in a bucket mentality. So anytime anybody says anything that is remotely positive, here come Diamond bitter ass with some type of negative comment or response or remark or anything, and it kills the whole vibe of the night. It's just like, bro, shut the fuck up. So that's their whole relationship with them. So Anora obviously works really, really late at this nightclub. When she gets home, she goes straight to bed. Now, one thing that I did find interesting about the shift in on the clock and off the clock Anora is on the clock Anora is stunning. Drop dead gorgeous. Hair done, makeup done, nails done, beautiful outfit. And the way that she works in the club is she's not just out like on a stage, on a pole, dancing for money. She'll dress in like a tight fitted mini dress. She'll have her little bag with her. She'll got her vape. She'll hit it. And she's just walking around the club asking guys, you want a drink? You want to go somewhere else with me? Do you want this? Do you want that? Like she's acting as if she's a patron in the nightclub. And then she'll find like someone who's kind of tipsy or someone who just is by themselves. It's like stalking prey, right? And she's the lioness. So she's waiting for someone to kind of separate themselves or get in a vulnerable position, and then she attacks, quote unquote. So when she attacks, she just initiates, any type of interaction. And then that leads into, hey, come upstairs with me. And then they're in a booth, they're in a room, they're somewhere where he has to give her, an absorbent amount of money, and she'll take off her clothes and dance for it. It's a transaction. And that shows like just the level of professionalism that comes with being that type of girl working in that type of environment. And she does it very, very well. She's getting about 5, 6, 7, 8 guys a night to do this for her. So when she's off the clock, it's a complete 360, right? She's got the baggy clothes, the oversized sweatshirts, the beanie, her hair is tucked up in it, all of her makeup is gone, so she looks, bummed out, run down, tired, exhausted. She does not look like what she does for a living, which is getting completely dolled up from head to toe and finagling niggas out their money. Like, she doesn't look like she looks, she has no job, but she's bringing in decent money doing what she's doing, and then she goes home, she smokes, she goes to sleep. She got a sister who's kind of like an asshole and is like not understanding, and they don't really have the best relationship. She's just there because she needs somewhere to stay type shit. So we're fast forwarding a little bit, and the night comes where her boss is like, hey, there's this guy upstairs who asked if there's any girls here who speak Russian. Now, Anora speaks Russian, but it's not perfect, but it's good enough to impress this guy. So she goes up there, she introduces herself to Vanya, who speaks Russian fluently, and his English is about as good as Anora's Russian, so they kind of go back and forth between the two languages. She brings him upstairs to the room, she dances for him, he gives her money, he says, hey, I would love to see you again tomorrow night if that's okay. She's like, okay, cool, because again, her whole thing is, I just need to do this to make money. Like, I'm not trying to find true love tonight, you know what I mean? That's not what I'm here for. So she does that. She gets his contact information. She meets up with him again later on, and then he invites her to his like big glorious mansion that he has. And this is something that I guess she also does pretty frequently because she already knew what type of time it was when she got there. Like, you didn't come here to listen to me talk. You didn't come here just to see me dance. You wanted to fuck, so let's go do that. And with no hesitation, they're upstairs. They're fucking. Everything's copacetic. He gives her like a couple $1,000s for this. And she's like, so what do you do? Like, how can you afford all this? Like, you're not that much older than me. And, you know, they exchange their ages. He's 21, she's 23. So they're both very, very young. And because they're both very, very young, they're both very, very stupid. Not stupid as in they don't have any education, but stupid as in they're gullible. They believe what's on the surface rather than the deeper meaning of shit. So keep that in mind, because that's also important. And he's like, well, I'm not rich, but my parents are. And then he's like, Google my dad. And he's like a philanthropist or something. I don't know what he does, but he has a lot of fucking money. And she recognizes him immediately from Googling his pictures. And she's like, that's your dad? And he's like, yeah. So the next night, she goes back to the club. She talks to Lulu. And she was like, he wants me to come again tomorrow night with his friends. And they want me to go on vacation with them for like a week. So now he's roping her in a little bit more. He's really like growing attached to her, not romantically, but physically, sexually. She's exciting. She's different. She's, you know, erotic and all this other shit. So he invites her to go on vacation with him for like a week. They go to Vegas. And this is a spur of the moment type of decision. They just decide one day to go to Vegas. And, while they're there, you know, they're partying every single night. They're drinking, they're doing drugs, they're fucking. It's wild. It's like a week-long bender on just drugs, alcohol, and sex. And I'm watching it, and I'm getting exhausted. Because it's like, dude, I couldn't handle 2 nights of this back to back. Y'all were doing this every single day? Like, you wake up in the morning, take a shot of tequila, bump a lot of cocaine off of your girlfriend's butt cheeks, and then you go out and just party. You're going to the pool, you swimming, you're going out to all of these different events. You're just going ape shit crazy. And actually, I think I'm skipping something. At one point, there was a house party that he was throwing for like New Year's, and she invited her friend Lulu, and they all get together and hang out, and they were fucking at that party too. And at the party, I believe he asked her to go with him to Vegas for a week. So it was the house party, and then it was the Vegas trip. So on the Vegas trip, at this point, they've been knowing each other for, I want to say maybe 2 weeks. Max. 2 weeks max. And he was like, I'm going to have to go back home soon. And she was like, why do you have to go back home? And he said, because my parents want me to work for their company, but I don't really want to work for the company. I want to stay here in America because I have a lot of fun here and all my friends are here. And he says, and this is the casting out the line, right? He's casting out his line. He's going to see if he can reel her in with this one. He said, if I got married to an American, I would be an American citizen. I wouldn't have to go home. I could stay here. And she was like, yeah, I bet you could do something like that if you really wanted to. He was like, why don't I marry you? And she was like, you really want to get married to me? And he was like, yeah, we have fun together. I think we go good together. I have a good time when I'm with you. And at first she's not buying it. At first she's like, boy, please, you're not trying to get married to me. Get the fuck out of here. And he was like, we could do it. We could do it right now. I'd never have to leave and you'd never have to work. And we could just live and do whatever we want to do forever. And he's really selling this delusional ass. And this is the part that kind of like, there's no fucking way. You can't be serious. He's selling her this delusional fantasy of a life together. And the only thing he's had to really back up that promise is everything that they've done together up until this point. They've traveled, they've gone to parties, they've had good food, good alcohol, good drugs. They've done a lot of shit together. But he also admitted from the jump that none of that is really his and that it's his parents' money. He doesn't have any money. He's 21 years old. What do you think he's out here doing other than just bullshitting? And by the way, when they're not fucking each other, when they're not drinking, when they're not partying, when they're not doing anything, he's sitting around playing video games all day. And she's just laid up underneath him, like watching him do it, smoking her vape, just letting him be the man-child that he is. But because she was so blinded by this fantasy lifestyle, and she's having such a great time with him, spending all this money that he really doesn't even have, she agrees to fucking do it. And they're in Vegas, so they get married in Vegas. He goes out and buys her this fat ass 4-carat ring, this beautiful like mink coat, all the fixings, all the shits. And then they come back to, I think they're in like New York or something like that. They come back to New York. She's living with him. She done moved out of her sister's house. She quit her job, all of this shit. And she's telling everybody, okay, I'm off to be a wife and you'll never see me again because my husband has money and blah, blah, blah. And everyone's so happy for her except for Diamond, who's a hater, of course. And Diamond's like, I'll give you 2 weeks before you crawling right back in here. And she's like, whatever, bro. So they're chilling. And for like 2 weeks, they were just chilling. It wasn't any drama. There wasn't any type of tension or friction. They was just hanging out. They fuck, they party, they drink, they smoke, they sleep. It's a very bland yet extravagant lifestyle for about 2 weeks. And then he gets a phone call from his parents and it goes unanswered. So this is where Toros comes into the equation. He had to miss his child's baptism to clean up the shit that this little nigga done got himself in. And ironically enough, when this interaction happens, Anora and Vanya are sitting on the couch. He's playing video games and she's just like speaking to him in Russian because she's been practicing, and they, communicate in Russian pretty much a majority of the time in this movie. And she's like, I wonder when I'm going to be able to meet your family. And he's like, no, you don't want to meet my family. My parents are assholes. They're not going to like you, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, well, you can meet my family if you want to. My sister is the only person who I have, and she's in the city, and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. And then his phone is just ringing. He's not answering it. Because apparently word had gotten back to his parents that he had gotten married, and they're trying to figure out what the hell's going on. So Vanya's not answering the phone, and it's just ringing. And then eventually the two Goonies come to the house where they're at, and they storm through. And Anora, she's obviously, rightfully terrified. She has no idea who these two dudes are. Vanya's screaming off the top of his lungs, get out, you're not supposed to be here, this is my house. And they're like, no, this is your parents' house. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Are you married? Did you get married? Are you married? And she's like, yes, we are married. We have the marriage license to prove it. She goes upstairs. She grabs the marriage license. The Goonies take a picture of it, send it to Toros, and he says, keep them there. I'm on my way. Vanya throws a tantrum, screaming, raging, throwing shit. He's trying to hurry up and get dressed. He's like, Anora, we gotta go. We gotta get out of here. Hurry up. And she's like, I'm not wearing any clothes. Just wait. I gotta go put some clothes on. And then he just fucking leaves. He just leaves her in the house by herself. She's not ass naked, but she's in like her underwear and a t-shirt with these two guys that she's never met before. And she immediately starts to panic, rightfully so, because she doesn't know who these guys are. They haven't said anything to her other than, who are you? And she doesn't know what's going on. So that's already a huge indicator this is going to end very, very badly. Because in her head, him and I are married. We've been married for a couple of weeks. And we were living just fine. We were doing good. We were chilling. We weren't doing anything crazy. At least not today. So she has no idea what's going on. She can't, wrap her brain around the fact that he literally just left her there. And she's saying, delusionally, no, he just went to go get help. He's coming back for me. No, he's not. So the Goonies are like, you need to calm down. You need to come with us. We need to figure out what's going on. And she's like, no, get away from me. Fuck you, this, that, and third. She starts throwing glass lamps and breaking shit. And eventually have to just restrain her by physically tying her down because she's bitten, she's punched, she's kicked, she's scratched. She's beating the hell out of these two grown-ass men who have no control over this entire situation. Finally, Toros comes, and he's like, why the fuck y'all have this little-ass girl? Which she's not a little girl, but she's very petite. She's very small. She's very physically, statin. And they're like, why do you have this little-ass girl tied up like this? What the fuck are you doing? And they were like, she just beat the hell out of us. What do you mean? What are we doing? We couldn't keep her still. She wouldn't stop fighting. So eventually Toros is trying to explain to her, like, look, I understand that you may not know what's going on, so let me make things clear. Vanya does not have money. He is not rich. He is not wealthy. He has no real power over his future or his fate. He's a dumb kid with rich parents who have spoiled him for too long, and it's been people like me keeping him out of trouble and on the up and up. We have to take you to get this marriage annulled. He has to go back to his country, has to go back to Russia, and this is all going to have to go away. And she's like, no, you're fucking crazy. We're married. You can't tell me that I have to get this annulment, blah, 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 whatever. Completely delusional. And at this point, as the audience looking at the movie, you've seen everything that's kind of happened up until this point, and you're starting to feel bad for her. Because she still believes in her heart of heart, her soul of souls, that this guy that she's only known for a month, Max, is going to protect her and take care of her and, defend her honor. Which, she's 23, so you have to give some type of leeway into the ignorance and the stupidity that comes with being someone who is in their early 20s. And they're not basing this off of any type of real love or connection. Even when they're fucking each other, it's all about what he gets out of fucking her. She's not really enjoying herself when she fucks him. And I'm saying fuck and not have sex or make love, because that's literally what they're doing. There's no passion, there's no emotional connection, there's nothing but just physical fucking between the two of them. And that's the only reason why I'm referring to it that way, because you can watch and see that he really doesn't care about her as a person, but literally as an object, as a toy, as a plaything, as this type of, entertainment tool that he can use to get himself off every once in a while, and you just have somebody to not even talk to, because even when they talk, the conversations are just very one-sided, very bland. He's not revealing too much about himself personally, and she's not asking any important questions. So you have to really take a step back and ask yourself, how the fuck did you get yourself into this position in the first place? And then act surprised when it blows up in your face, because there's no real, and again, you have to excuse it. Oh, she's only 23, she doesn't know any better. You ought to know enough to know when somebody is bullshitting you. The second that he ran out of that house and left you there, when he had the opportunity to, and after that, he was just gone for the rest of the day. They spend the rest of the movie looking for him. And we're like halfway through the movie at this point. That should have been enough to tell you. And it's like no amount of money on planet Earth is worth your pride, your soul, your dignity, your humanity, and your feelings. And she allowed herself, and I'm going to say that she allowed herself to be vulnerable enough for him to take advantage of her in every way and aspect, and still expected to come off on top. And what blew me is, if she was really smart, she could have played this a little bit better, because there are some points, and I'll get to them in a second, where she tried to flip the script and it just didn't work. So, but again, that's more toward the end, and I'll get to that when we get to the end of the movie. So at this point, Toros comes in, they explain to her, look, we have to find him. First things first, his parents are on their way. They will be here tomorrow at noon. You're getting this marriage annulled, and he's going back home to his country. And if it means anything, we can pay you for the time spent and lost in his presence. She said, no, we're going to find him first, and he's going to tell you that we're going to stay married, and that's all that it's going to be, is us being married. So inevitably, they agree that we have to go out and find him. They go to all of the spots where all of his friends work. And mind you, his friends, they're not rich either. Two of his friends work in like a candy store that they go in and completely just trash, bash, destroy, because they don't know where he is. He's not answering anybody's phone calls. He's not answering anybody's text messages. Anytime someone calls him, it just goes straight to voicemail. So two of his friends just work in like Coney Island at a candy shop. And another one works in like a restaurant as a cook. So even his friends aren't even rolling in money like that. They're average people just like she is. Their jobs aren't any more extravagant. Their lifestyles aren't any more extravagant. They're just regular ass people who got caught up with someone who promised them one thing and then performed something different. And it's like the manipulation that money has over young people especially is what I think is driving this movie to be as great as it is. Which, not to say that it's not a good movie. I thought it was a good movie, but we'll get to that in a second also. So, they're driving around. They're going to all of his favorite spots. They're not finding him anywhere. It's late. They stop and get something to eat. They're at a restaurant, and Toros is so desperate. He's just showing pictures of him to random people. Like, hey, have you seen him? In comes a text message from Lulu, Anora's friend, who still works at the HQ. She said, bitch, your husband is here. And they say, bet, let's go. They get there. Who is he in a private room with but that sneaky snake-ass bitch Diamond, who called it from the jump that this wasn't going to work and this isn't going to last and she's going to come crawling back in here. But surprise, surprise, he's in here drunk out of his mind. And I mean drunk out of his mind. Like, ad nauseum drunk, like to the point where he can't even keep his eyes open drunk. It's terrible the state that he's in. They get there, they get him, Anora and Diamond get into a fight and they all get kicked out. Which I feel like kind of spoiled any chances of her going back there to work, but again, we'll cross that bridge here in a second. So they get Vanya. She's trying to talk to him, she's trying to wake him up. Listen, tell him that we're still going to be married. Tell him that you don't want to get this annulment. And he's not even responding. So they sleep outside the courthouse and they wait for the courthouse to open. The family lawyer shows up to get the annulment done. Vanya is still drunk and still not conscious. They get into the courthouse and Anora is like, Your Honor, I'm being forced to do this annulment and my husband and I don't want to do the annulment and they're trying to make us do it and we can't and we don't want to. And the judge is like, well, where's the marriage license? And they were like, we have it. And she was like, yeah, we got married in Las Vegas and they're trying to make us come back here. And the lawyer was like, wait, you said you got married in Vegas? And then immediately everybody's like, okay, we got to leave the courtroom. Sorry, Your Honor, for wasting your time. Woo-de-woo. Because they got married in Vegas, they need to get annulled in Vegas because it has to happen in the same county that you were married in. So now it's an even bigger pile of shit to have to deal with because both of them need to be present in the same courthouse and they both have to sign off on it saying this is what we want to do. And she is still protesting. No, we're not getting an annulment. We're going to stay married. And at this point, it's just like, what the fuck are you holding on for? What are you holding on to this relationship for? Because it's not based off of anything but a lie. At this point, this childish ass man has roped you into this false sense of what security and not even obligation. He's just roped you in based off of nothing but a lie. Nothing but a fat ass fucking lie. He's so drunk he can't even look at you. He can't even communicate with you right now. All of the people in his life, the two Goonies, Toros, his parents are all saying the same thing. He is a child in a 21-year-old man's body. He is immature. He's irresponsible. He's always getting into trouble. He's always doing some dumb shit. Spending up all of our money in the process, wasting our time, ruining our family's reputation. And the icing on the fucking cake was when he decided to come to New York for school to study, and he marries a hooker, a stripper, an escort, a prostitute, a whoever. And you think that we're just going to let him keep embarrassing us like this? You really think that we are going to allow the two of you to stay married when he can't even take care of himself? So what the fuck makes you think he's going to be able to take care of you? Like, be fucking for real. And so at this point, she's still trying so hard to save whatever marriage is left. And at this point, his parents showed up. His mom was on the phone crying, and they were like, we've never heard her cry before. She's obviously the wearer of the pants in this relationship, because his daddy is just like, what the fuck did he do this time? But the mama is very like set in her ways on not letting this shit slide. So they get on the jet. They're about to go to Las Vegas, and Vanya's finally sobered up enough to be able to talk and communicate and trying to defend himself. And this was a conversation that kind of broke a lot of people, because before they got on the plane, she was like, Vanya, why aren't you saying anything? Why aren't you defending us? Like, we're married. That means something to you, doesn't it? And he was like, no, it doesn't mean anything. what my parents say is what means everything. If they say we have to get this divorce, then we have to get this divorce. And she was like, you're seriously just gonna give up on everything? And he was like, yeah, are you fucking stupid? I can't do this. And I think that was the moment. Hearing him say, are you fucking stupid? Kind of put in perspective that there was never anything real about their relationship. Which at this point, no shit, Sherlock. Like, obviously, there was never anything real about this relationship. There was never anything real about this marriage. So when you hear people say things like, oh, marriage is just a piece of paper, this is an example of what it looks like when you say marriage is just a piece of paper. It meant nothing. Not even to him. And the only thing it meant to him was, I don't have to go back to my country and work for my parents. I can stay here in America and do whatever I want. That's the only thing that being married to her meant to him, is that he never had to go back home. And he could have manipulated and used anybody else to get what he wanted, but he chose her for whatever reason. It didn't matter. It wasn't that he was in love with her. I'm pretty sure he was infatuated with how beautiful she was, and maybe she was a good lay, and she could keep up with him with the partying and shit. And then when it came to them just being alone, she never talked. She never asked important questions. She never got on his nerves. And she didn't expect anything from him. He didn't expect anything from her. So it's just sad. And it's the thing that I can't wrap my brain around is, where did you think this was going to go? What did you think was going to happen? They found him. He's drunk out of his mind. They dragged both of you to the courthouse. Anytime you opened your mouth to say something, they would immediately tell you to shut the fuck up. What did you think? And I didn't feel sorry for her at that point. I mean, I was supposed to, but I didn't, because what did you think was going to happen? And then this was the point where she tried to hit the Uno reverse. And she was like, I'm not getting on this plane. You can't make me get on this plane. And the mama came out and she was like, you either walk up these steps or we will carry you up these steps. And she was like, okay, well, if you're going to make me get a divorce, then I want half of everything that you guys have. Because that's how divorces work. That's how a divorce works. Granted, they weren't going for a divorce. They were going for an annulment, which is different. And she was like, and I'll tell them that I'm pregnant, and I'm telling them that it's his, and I'll tell them this and I'll tell them that. And the mama, real stone cold, was like, if you are pregnant, we'll take care of that too. But regardless of what you say or what you do, you don't have a lot to lose already, and I'll make sure you get none of that back. I'll take everything from you. You already have nothing, and I will take that, all of it, if you keep fucking with me and my family. Get on this goddamn plane. And without another goddamn word, she was on the motherfucking plane, and they were going to base. So Anora is in one half of the private jet with the two Goonies and Toros. They're all drinking, they're all tired, they're all really, really exhausted. One of the Goonies has grown attached to her emotionally, because not only is he seeing the breakdown mentally of everything that she is going through, he's basically the perception of the audience, seeing her go through all of these trials and tribulations, dealing with this one dumbass kid that he's had to deal with for a majority of his professional career working for this family. And he just feels really, really bad for her. He feels terribly bad, and there's nothing that he can do. And he's very soft-spoken. He doesn't say much in the movie. They have a couple of exchange words here and there, but other than that, he's very quiet. On the other half of the private plane is Vanya and his parents. They're saying, like, how could you do this? You made such a stupid mistake. Did you really think that you were going to get away with this? Just riot him the riot act. And she overhears him say, what, because I married an escort? And she takes that very, very personal. She walks back to the back of the plane and says, I can't fucking wait to get away from you. You and your whole family are pieces of shit. Fuck you. Just laying them in. They don't give a damn. They don't give a damn about what she has to say or how she feels. About nothing. So they get to Vegas, they get to the courthouse, they get the annulment done, and Anora takes off her mink, throws it on the counter, and the mom says to her, you know, you really wanted to be a part of this family so bad that you married a kid that you don't even know. And then she claps back and says, and your son hates you so much that he married a hooker just to piss you off. And it sends the dad into a spiral laughter. And at this point, Vanya can't even look at her because he knows just how badly he fucked. He doesn't apologize and he doesn't do anything. I think even the quiet Goonie was like, I think Vanya should apologize to her for putting her through this. And the mom was like, he ain't apologizing for shit. She can get her shit, she can go. Or anything that belongs to me, anything that he bought, she can take. I'll take that back and she can leave. And they just leave without a word. So Toros asks the quiet Goonie, I think his name is Angus or something like that. He takes Angus and Angus takes Nora to the airport. They went from flying on a private jet to like commercial coach. And he's like, he's going to take you back to New York. He's going to get you $10,000 tomorrow morning when the bank opens. You can stay in the house tonight, but after that you have to be gone. And that's what they do. They go back to and it's no words said between the flight from Vegas to New York. They get back to the house. They're watching TV. They're smoking. And they're making very light conversation. Now, this is where you kind of get a shift of personality between Vanya and Angus. I'm not sure his name is Angus, and I'm so sorry. That's the only thing that I can think of that makes sense to my head. So they're actually having a conversation. She's pissed off, rightfully so, but they're having an actual conversation. He tells her that yesterday was his birthday and nobody wished him happy birthday because they were all working looking for Vanya's stupid ass. And, you know, they're just talking about the news and they're talking about just random shit. And at one point it gets really, really weird because she was like, you tied me up and I didn't know if you were going to rape me or anything like that. And he was like, why would you think that I would rape you? And she was like, because I was naked and in my underwear and you had me tied up and I was sitting on your lap and I couldn't move and you just held me there. And I was like, is he going to rape me or what? And he was like, I'm not going to rape you. And she's like, why? You don't want to rape me? And I'm thinking to myself, why the fuck would you ask a question like that? And I realized afterwards that it's to build up sexual tension between the two of them. Because her implying that he would rape her if he had the opportunity to, in her sick, twisted, delusional mind means that he's physically attracted to her. And because men can't control their physical attractions to women, the only way that they can get that release is by taking advantage of them physically or sexually. But he's like, I wouldn't rape because I'm not a rapist. And she just can't believe. So at this point, you, as the audience, have hopefully made the conclusion that in addition to being taken advantage of physically, mentally, emotionally, she often gets taken advantage of sexually by men who just can't help themselves. So it's not a surprise that she would be immediately go to, oh, you're a rapist, because that's her entire lifestyle, is working at this nightclub where she dances on men ass naked for money. It's no surprise that she would come across a couple of niggas every once in a while who take things a little too far. It's like a trauma response, and it's buried so badly into her brain that she can't comprehend what a real connection with somebody looks like. And in the 2 days that she's known this random person, she has built up more of an emotional and mental connection with him than any physical, sexual relationship with anybody else, including Vanya. And she was married to him. So the next day rolls around, she gathers up all of her stuff. They go to the bank, they get, which I also think that $10,000 is bullshit. These people, when I say that they are dumb rich, stupid rich, old money rich, like Princess and the Pauper rich, like $10,000 is pocket change. I would have demanded $100,000 and I would have shut my motherfucking mouth. I would have went as high as I could go. Okay, you want me to get this annulment? I need some type of compensation. $10,000. He gave her $10,000 to go with them for the week. That little vacation that they took for that 1 week, he gave her $10,000 for just doing that. So what the fuck is 10,000? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's nothing. I would have asked for $1 million. I would have asked for $100,000. I would have asked for way more than $10,000 ain't shit for niggas with money like this. But she was heartbroken. She was devastated. She was miserable. And so she just took whatever they gave her. So they get the $10,000. They drive back to the sister house. He takes all of her bags up the steps. All of them. And then he gets back in the car and he's like, he lives in the area, and he mentions that to her. He's like, I live around here. And she was just like, no, thank you for everything that you've done. And again, because she's so broken and traumatized and, distraught, she thinks that I have to show him how much I am grateful for him. So she takes off her clothes, takes out his dick, and sits on it and starts riding him. And at first he's kind of like taken aback, like he doesn't really know how to respond or what to do. And rather than just fuck her, like she's been fucked by Vanya and maybe several other people, he grabs her face and he like makes eye contact with her. Like he is trying to be as emotionally connected with her as he possibly can without her feeling like he's taking advantage of her the way that literally everybody else has in this entire fucking movie. And because she doesn't know what that looks like, what that feels like, what that is supposed to be, she reacts violently. She smacks him in the face, and then she immediately starts crying. And then she curls up into a little ball and just lays on his chest, and he just holds her. And I knew this was going to piss me off, but that's how the movie ends. That's how, unless it was a post-credit scene that I was unfamiliar with, that is how that movie ends. And I hate movies that just end because I have so many fucking questions. What happens next? And maybe you're just not supposed to know, right? Maybe it's not supposed to be written in the cards for you to know what happens next. But I want to fucking know. Does she get her job back at the HQ? Does she go back to being a stripper or whatever the fuck she was? Or does she take that $10,000 and move out of New York? Does she move in with him? Do they get together? Does she make amends with her friends at the HQ and her sister? Does she do anything? Or has she learned nothing and goes back to her lifestyle being what it was before she met this guy? And I wish, and maybe some things just don't deserve closure. Maybe you don't need to know all the time how something is going to happen, and you should just let things happen. But I want to fucking know. I want to know what happens. I want to know what happens to her. You just have me sit through this movie for 2 hours, getting invested in this plot, this story, this character, just to end it on, okay, well, that's just it. Like, what? She gets $10,000, which again is bullshit. She gets dropped back off at her old house and her old life, but there's no guarantee that that's what happens to her when everything is said and done. So what the fuck happens? And it just bothers me that I don't have an answer to that question. And again, maybe I don't need to have an answer. Maybe it's not for me to know, but I would like to know. But that's how the movie ends. Now, the question was, do I think that this movie was better than Wicked to the point where it beat Wicked for like 3 or 5 categories at the Oscars this year? My answer is no. I understand how some things could have been more, for one than the other, but I didn't hate the movie. I didn't hate it. I liked it. I wouldn't watch it again. I liked it. But if you're asking me if I thought that this was better than Wicked, my answer is absolutely not. Absolutely not. And it has nothing to do with the fact that Wicked is not an original concept, or that it's based off of a musical, or that it's a part 2 coming towards it, so it's like an incomplete story being told. And here's the other thing. I don't feel bad for the character of Anora the way that I could feel bad about the character of Elphaba, because Anora was just a young, dumb girl living in New York who made a lot of bad decisions and got manipulated and roped into this facade of a marriage and expected to come out on top. I have a really hard time, not only relating to a character like that, but having empathy for a character like that, because you even peeped in the beginning when he asked you to marry him that it wasn't going to work, because that's not how marriages work. And you didn't even want to do it because you weren't even in love with him to begin with. It was the idea of this lifestyle that you fell in love with. And you didn't even love that. You were just comfortable enough to tolerate it. What the hell do you mean that versus someone who is deliberately going against oppression and prejudice and being profiled and being, bullied and, misconstrued and just outcasted by her entire community? Come on. Like, don't put, stop. I'm not even, it's a no fucking brainer. Do I believe that Anora should have won a couple of the awards at the Oscars? Absolutely. It was Oscar worthy, sure. But do I think it should have outbeat Wicked for the... No, I don't. And I think the only reason why they did that was because at the time, Wicked was the talked about movie of the year. That's all anybody could talk about for like 2 or 3 months straight. And then this movie comes out that's very, very dark, that's very, very menacing, that's very, very conflicting, and it's not up to the hype. So what do? They give it all these goddamn Oscars, and now everybody's talking about Anora. And I remember seeing the ads on like TikTok for months. And again, I was under the impression from the trailer that the reason why they needed to separate the two of them was because maybe he was a crime boss. Maybe he was into some illegal shit. Maybe he was doing things that she didn't need to be a part of because it could have gotten her killed. No, he's just a spoiled brat who disobeyed his parents on purpose just to piss them off. And she just got caught in the middle of it. So, no, I don't. With that being said, I didn't think it was a bad movie. I just didn't think it was better than Wicked. It definitely shouldn't have won no more Oscars than Wicked did, but that's beside the point. That's just my 2 cents, my opinion. Again, it's a good movie. I'd give it maybe, 6.5 or a 7. A 7 is probably a little high. I'd probably give it like a 6.75 out of 10. Because again, I hated the way that it ended. It's hard to have empathy for a character who just deliberately refuses to see all of the red flags that are just blaring in front of you. Like, this guy is young, dumb, stupid. He married you to get a get out of working for my family free card and automatic citizenship into America, which I believe that's some kind of fraud. I'm pretty sure that's some type of fraud. So that's against the fucking law. And you're just telling yourself that it's all going to work out because you're married and that's what matters? No. To him, to his family, to the people that work for his family, marriage is just that, a piece of paper. And if they could have physically ripped up that motherfucking marriage license just to further emphasize the I don't give a fuck point that they were making throughout the entire second half of this movie, they would have did it. It meant nothing to them to get rid of her. It meant nothing to them that she existed. They did not care. He did not care. And I mean, that's fucked up. That's real fucked up. But that's the harsh, ugly truth behind a lot of these, marriages, quote unquote. And some people just don't. Anyway. But that was Anora in a nutshell. Again, I don't think it was better than Wicked, but I guess, see the appeal behind it. The story is very, very tragic and devastating. And the character of Anora herself is someone who should be, observed closely for just the epitome of the entire situation. But other than that, it was cool. It was good. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I loved Wicked. I didn't love Anora, but it is what it is. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for those who decided to tune in. And until next time, I will speak to you all later.